Hello and welcome to the local trapezoid. Today I'm going to talk to you about my latest obsession, which is with the bat, which comes from the order of Chiroptera, which is incredibly fun to say. And bats make up the second largest part of the group of mammals. And that comes after, guess what? Rodents. So I'm going to talk to you about bats today, and bats are divided into two groups. There are two subgroups. There are megabats and microbats. So there's Megachiroptera and Microchiroptera, and that's even more fun to say. So that's fun. And so megabats actually contain things like fruit bats, and don't echolocate, excluding one group, I think. But I can't remember the name of that group. But microbats echolocate, megabats don't. Let's just say that's mostly true. And when you actually look at the structure of the ear, you can see that the difference in the anatomy, which allows the microbats to echolocate and the megabats not to. Oh, bird. And so microbats actually have a different cochlea, which is in the inner ear. And the cochlea is the part of the ear that contains loads and loads and loads of hair cells. So that the idea is that when sound travels through your ear, it goes through incus, malleus, and stapes, the three smallest bones and stuff, and the eardrum, so on and so on. It finally gets to the cochlea and the semicircular canals. And the cochlea is the one that contains the hair cells, which when the sound gets to it, they sway backwards and forwards and create this this electrical sort of impulse, which is sent to the through the auditory nerve and to the limbic system, I think, in the brain. Oh wait, no. Sent to temporal lobes, I think, which is right here. Sorry, almost messed up there. And so when microbats actually, so they have different cochleas than the megabats, which allow them to echolocate differently. And other than that, yeah, so that's cool. That actually led scientists to believe that they evolved separately of each other, but I don't truly understand that at this point. I might make a video on that once I understand it. So for now I'm going to tell you about history, and I'm going to tell you specifically about something that happened during World War II, which was called Project X-Ray. During World War II, just recently after the attack on Pearl Harbor, there was this guy called Adams, who was an oral surgeon or dentist or whatever you want to call him, and he wrote a letter to the White House. He was friends with Eleanor Roosevelt, I think, and so he wrote a letter to the White House saying, "Here, bats are incredible flyers. In fact, Leonardo da Vinci studied bats, you know, and you can read his writings about how he always believed that bats were the most incredible masters of flying, and so if anyone else wanted to become a master of the sky, and there weren't really aviators at the time, they should really study the bat, because despite the fact that it looks like they're just sort of collapsing through the air in a sort of heap of disorientation, it's actually very well planned out. And you can look on YouTube. There are some really awesome people who slowed down videos of bats flying, and you can see that it doesn't just look like that or whatever, and it doesn't look like that sort of heap of disorientation, but it is more planned out and precise, and it's kind of incredible to see these things. So Leonardo da Vinci believed that it was the bats are incredible flyers, and later on in World War II, Adams agreed with him. So this is why he sent this letter to the White House as a friend of Eleanor Roosevelt, saying we should use bats to drop bombs on Japan. And at that time, it seemed this really, really daft idea seemed revolutionary. Well, or at least pretty awesome. And so the U.S. Army said yes, and there's this, and they named this stupid idea Project X-ray. And so they started to so they designated it to one part of the army, and they started trying to make bat bombs, which I must remind you are very different from bath bombs. And so you don't want to make that confusion, because if you bring a bat bomb in the bath instead of a bath bomb, it might not end well. But, so at this point in time, sorry, I'm jumping around a bit, we've decided to use bat bombs to drop bombs on Japan. And, bats to drop bombs on Japan. And so, where this really went wrong, if it doesn't sound bad enough yet, it gets worse, I promise. So, what happens is that while they are doing the experiments, and mind you, they've spent a lot of money on the experiment at this point in time, they drop the bombs, but before they do, the bats are placed inside a chamber inside the bomb. They designed it so that there was a fridge inside, so that they were carrying huge swarms of these bats. They chose one specific type of bat that was found in Texas and New Mexico, where there were caves of more than 20 million of this type of bat. And so they needed to, hi Henry, I'm making a YouTube channel. And so they put these bats inside of the sort of fridge chambers in the bomb. And this was where it really went wrong, because that induced a hibernation, which was what they were planning, because they wanted them to be under control, because they were carrying loads of these bats. But by the time that they actually dropped them, they were mostly sleeping, so loads of them just fell to the ground and died. They expected them to register the fact that they were falling through the air in a dangerous fashion, and that maybe they were going to end their lives in that way, but unfortunately that didn't happen. And I am mad at these humans that decided that it would be a good idea to drop bombs on Japan using bats. And so, come on, don't do that. Stop. And so, can you stop distracting me, please? Thank you. And, another way in which this experiment, Project X-ray, was really messed up was when during some of the experiments, quite a few bats flew back to part of the Army Air Base, and they blew up part of it. And so it blew up some barracks and barracks, and a whole bunch of and some buildings, or one building, and at this point, one of the army generals or something who was in control of it, of Project X-ray, or who was working on it at the time, wrote a letter to the person who was really running the army at the time, or to the White House or something, and said, he didn't mention the fact that barracks had been blown up, but he did say that some stuff had been destroyed, I think. And he said that it wasn't a good idea to continue, and so the people in the White House were like, okay, fine, maybe it wasn't such a great idea after all. And mind you, this was after a whole bunch of bats died. So I'm very mad at them for doing that, and I'm kind of pleased at them for burning the airbase at one point. They didn't burn the whole thing, it was just part. But I think they kind of deserved it after they tried to kill these bats. But, alright, so I think that's my first video. I'm just thinking if there are any other tidbits that I want to share with you. Oh, right, yeah. There was this guy, who took, Leonardo da Vinci's advice and decided that he would also attempt at making a sort of bat plane. And this was way before, the time of aviation, I think. And, so, despite the fact that Leonardo da Vinci had been very unsuccessful with trying to, figure out the whole bat wing thing, even though he drew loads of sketches of it, of bat wings, he didn't really achieve it, and that was the thing that sort of, really bothered him for his whole life. That was his sort of life's catastrophe in one regard. He just couldn't ever figure out the bat. And this other guy, though, I forget his name, he decided, oh, wait, Leonardo da Vinci was quite right about this. Look at how incredible these bats are at flying. I am going to make a plane of my own. And he actually managed to successfully make a plane that was designed like bat wings. And so he flew for quite a while. I mean, compared to how most people were flying, which wasn't at all or much. I don't know. And after a while, though, he was so excited. He was flying through the air for a while. After a while, he just crashed to the ground. I don't know what happened to him, because the documentary didn't say, which I was annoyed about. But, yeah, that was what one guy did. And another, little tidbit I can share with you about, bat history. I think that should be a subject in school. Chiropterology. Is that the word? I don't know. And so, what was I gonna say? Oh my god, I'm so distracted. Alright, so there was this other guy who was called Spallanzani, I think, who, he actually figured out, he was desperate to try and figure out how these bats could navigate, in the dark and fly with such brilliant precision. And some scientists studied bats and they found out that bats actually can fly in the dark at up to about 80 miles per hour, and dodging obstacles all the while. So, Spallanzani was just shocked by this. Like, how can these creatures do it? And, I mean, maybe he was jealous of them or something. And, so, despite the fact that he, was a very loyal member of the church, and he was a very devout Catholic, he was not so kind to bats. Meaning he gouged their eyes out with, like, burning hot needles, and ate the leftover bats, and when he was testing them, you know how you sort of cut down on senses, sort of, to test? He was cutting down on the senses to try and figure out what was the one that they were relying on in order to navigate. And as he did this, he did it in a very horrible way, and he really harmed the bats. And so he would gouge their eyes out if he wanted to test if they were using their eyes. Hi, Dad. I'm making a YouTube channel. And so then he would also, so he would ruin their eyes, and then he would ruin their ears. And when he finally discovered that they were using their mouths, or that's what he thought, or whatever, to echolocate, he just couldn't believe it. Like, how is that possible? And they just hadn't really heard of anything like it before. And so he sort of refused to believe it, killed killed a bunch of new bats, and so this guy was called Spallanzani. And he just really, so if any bats heard about this guy called Spallanzani, they would not be happy. And is there anything else? I think that's it. But, Anyway, bats are amazing creatures. Study more about them. They're really, really fascinating. I'll try and learn more if I find any other cool facts, then I can tell you about them. Pigeons were also used during World War II. You probably know that. And so we can find out more about that. And there was another guy who echolocated, actually, I just thought of this, who is called Ben Underwood. There's a great documentary about him on YouTube, and Ben Underwood taught himself how to echolocate. So go and check that documentary out. It's really fantastic. Anyway, I will see you next time. Welcome to the trapezoidal community.